What is up, guys? Welcome back to the crew 2, and in this video I'm going to take a look at the Proto Alpha Mark X. So I feel like this is one of those F1 cars that kind of got forgotten. It's also going to look absolutely insane as well, but the main reason why I feel like this car did get forgotten was, for one, it did get nerfed a long time ago, and then we also got the KTM Expo R that was added into the game, which a lot of people do argue this is not actually an F1 car. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below, but the Alpha Mark X, funnily enough, was actually one of my favorite cars back in the day. It was also like what I would say the meta back, I guess, when a lot of the other Alpha GP cars were not really being used, and the KTM was also not in the game as well, so a lot of people really weren't running like the RBs and anything, so I feel like a lot of people were actually using the lovely Mark X as well, and I was also basically only running this car. It was probably my favorite car back in the day. Now, one thing I find interesting is I did mention, guys, in the video with the RB14 Disruption Edition, is the Alpha GP cars definitely seem to be a bit faster when it comes to their overall top speed, at least compared to before. I was noticing, guys, with the Mark X here, I was hitting around 298 to 300 miles per hour with this vehicle, which I definitely do remember this car not being that fast. I do believe the top speed of this car was like 277 or something like that. It was pretty dang low. It actually might have been like 270, but I will have to watch that old video with the top speed test, because I do remember many of these cars being a tad different than each other. I also do know the Mark X was one of the slowest Alpha GP cars in the game back then as well, and that was actually after the nerf, because a lot of people were saying this car was a little bit overpowered, which honestly I can't really blame anybody. This car was basically like the best Alpha GP car. It had insanely good handling. It was also really fast. It did over 290. And then I do remember jumping back into the Mark X, and I was like, wait a second, what's wrong with the handling? It felt kind of unstable. It did not feel like it used to be. Then I also did notice the top speed was a bit lower. I'm honestly really happy to see this car make a return, though, because the handling is going to be insanely good now after this update, similar to like the RB14 and or the KTM Expo. I did find the stability of this vehicle to be way better than it used to be, and the fact that it can now do around 300 miles per hour with a Nitrochemist set is definitely going to make the Alpha GP class interesting, due to the fact that every car is going to have the exact same top speed, at least compared to before where they were different. I really do think this is actually going to help with the variety a lot in this class, because I'm not going to lie, guys, I got kind of tired of the KTM Expo there toward the end. I wasn't having the greatest time with that car, plus I did notice the overall stability on the KTM was honestly not that great. That was kind of bugging me. I do know a lot of people felt the same way, because I was noticing many players did not like the handling and or stability of the KTM. So seeing these other Alpha GP cars actually get updated with a handling model similar to that car, I really do think, guys, this is definitely long overdue, and actually being able to see the Mark X around now is going to be pretty awesome. I've always loved the way this car looked. It looks absolutely insane. I always loved how this thing handled back in the day, so I'm really happy to see this car return. So if you guys actually did want to do like longer events and stuff with some of these Alpha GP cars and or go like on the tracks, a lot of these cars are going to basically be able to do all of it now because of that top speed and or handling change. I actually really like this feature, because now you can basically pick any of the cars and still do insanely good, instead of like running back to that one Alpha GP car that, oh man, I have to use this thing again because it's going to be that good. I really do feel like that's going to start fading now in the Alpha GP class and or the touring car category as well, because now we're going to have vehicles that can actually be used on every single event. I really do think the Mark X here is also going to be one of the better Alpha GP vehicles. At the same time, now the way I'm looking at the Alpha GP cars is the fact that you can now pick any of them and still do good in the summits. You don't actually have to run to the KTM to get a decent score now. Even though those cars are still going to be good, you can easily run something like the Mark X or like one of the RB models and still get a really good score even on the bigger, like longer US Speed Tour events. You can also then jump onto one of the tracks and also get a good time because of the way these handle. I also did actually used to use the Alpha GP cars a lot on the slaloms. These cars are going to be that much better on the skills as well. Plus, guys, with this higher top speed, you can also probably experiment with these cars a little bit more on a lot of the escapes as well because of that higher speed. I would say using something like an Alpha GP car on like a speed trap is probably not the best idea, but if you really wanted to, you could probably get a decent score with them, even though the drag cars are probably going to be the best option on those. But the Mark X back in the day was by far one of my favorite Alpha GP cars to use, so being able to use this car once again is so dang awesome. I do want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Which Alpha GP car is your favorite so far and why? And stay tuned for the rest of the Alpha GP vehicles like the RB13 coming soon. And here are the settings I'm now running on this vehicle.